Welcome you on into another episode of the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch Pinnell alongside Mitchell Bally here to give you the latest of what's going on in the world of athletics. Mitch is going to be back with you at the start of this week. And congratulations to you for winning the recent Great Lakes World Series upstate.
Appreciate it, Mitch. Appreciate it. It was a good weekend for the boys out there. Really fun weekend. Off to a great start. 4 tournaments down, 4 to go. Leave for Nashville tomorrow morning. So summer's always booked coaching, but I absolutely love it. So I appreciate that. And it's good to be back with you talking about some sports going on in the world right now.
Well, before we get into our show today, I want to remind you guys of all the places you can follow us. Of course, if you're watching here on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Now, if you're on one of the local podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud, you can find us there. You can also find us on our website, bigtimesportsohio.com. We just put up a number of articles today, including one involving a story from our own Roger Metzger that we'll get to here in a little bit. We also have videos on there and, obviously all of our stuff for the upcoming year. And on Twitter, you can find us at BTS Ohio. On Facebook and Instagram, you can find us at Big Time Sports Ohio. And then Mitch Pinnell and Mitchell Balla pretty much everywhere else. Mitch, we start off here talking local stuff as we start off in the summer season where there's not a lot of sports going on in the moment locally. A lot of teams gearing up for the fall campaign. There was one story that I wanted to talk about here that was kind of an interesting one that was first reported by the Repository just a few days ago. A big transfer over from Alliance to Massillon as one offensive lineman, Jason Lewis, is going to be joining the Tigers O-line this coming season. I mean, this is a guy that currently holds 7 FBS offers, Division I offers from schools from the likes of Toledo, Kent State, Bowling Green, Eastern Michigan. You even want to go outside the MAC conference. You can go Marshall, UMass. It's a very interesting scenario for Massillon, who's already returning a couple of guys on their offensive line this year.
Yeah, no, it definitely is interesting. And, some people may look at it as a move that they didn't see coming. When you look at the type of player that Jason Lewis is, Mitch, 6'6", 315 pounds, obviously going to more than likely be a tackle at the next level with that kind of size and athleticism that he shows at Alliance. For those asking why, and, a lot of people upset because Massillon continues to just get these great football players. Look at Lewis right now. He's a rising junior, Mitch, and he already has 7 Division I football offers. Why would you not, if possible, obviously there's certain rules and regulations you have to go through when transferring. Why would you not look at a place like Massillon? And it's absolutely no shade or disrespect to Alliance, but Massillon, who has continued now year in and year out to make it to the Final Four in states for football, and has also churned out some big time offensive linemen to the next level. You look at Thayer Munford, the Ohio State Buckeye offensive lineman who's now in the NFL, just to name one off the top of my head. Not only that, but Massillon just plays a very attractive schedule. You look at some of the teams they're playing this fall. Some of the games are going to be picked up by big time media outlets, whether it's here in Northeast Ohio or outside of the state. I know Massillon plays a team, I believe, from Georgia this season. The attractions there for an offensive lineman who wants to play football at the next level at a high level and has 2 more years to get coached up and really perform at the best of his ability. I get it for Jason Lewis and for Massillon, Mitch. They have to be ecstatic to get a player of this caliber, of that size. The one thing you always hear in sports, you can't teach size, and you certainly cannot teach 6'6", 315 pounds on the offensive line. And I know the future quarterbacks for Massillon and running backs have to be thrilled to have this type of big body on the line, pass protecting and also creating holes for the running game. Big time pickup for Massillon, and I'm sure Jason Lewis did it. Hard to leave your teammates you've been with for the past 2 years and friends you've grown up with over at Alliance, but looking ahead, this seems like a player that has big time aspirations to go forward at the Division I college football level and potentially beyond.
No doubt. He's listed at 6'6", 315 pounds, and he joins a Massillon offensive front that, as we mentioned before, returns 3 of their 5 starting linemen from last season. Alliance still has 3 of their 5 starters on the offensive line going into this year. The Aviators will still be able to protect senior quarterback Brendan Zerbrug, who we'll get to in a second. But Massillon already had a couple of newsmakers when it came to recruiting this week. 2 of their players landed their first Division I offers in Jameer Gamble getting an offer from Central Michigan this past Wednesday, and Tyler Hackenbrack was given an offer by Toledo. So those are very interesting offers for 2 members of the class of 2025. Now, as for Zurbuch, we talked about before, he is the top quarterback for the Aviators in Alliance. He is a very, very solid quarterback. His numbers last year, ranking along lines of what do we have here? 2,184 passing yards, 23 touchdowns. 76% of his passes were completed as a junior. Also ran for 11 touchdowns, 800 yards. So he has already made a decision of where he's going to be committing. He got his first Big Ten offer, I believe, last week, but he is going to be committing to the Orangemen of Syracuse, a very interesting football program that's trying to work its way back up to among the tops in college football. Zurbuch is listed as a 3-star recruit, which is interesting. I mean, what do you make of him kind of taking a position like this in a program where it's not a Power Five? I mean, it's not a power school by any chance, but at the same time, they're really trying to work their way up to a potential run here if they can maybe get some players together.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think when it comes to recruiting, it's something I've went through, obviously not that this high of a level, but usually the school that comes at you and really shows you they want you is a school you have attraction to, especially when it comes to academics. If that's something you want to major in, that school has it or is very, very advanced in that field. And you mentioned he got a Big Ten offer last week, but if Syracuse is one of the first schools, Mitch, to come after him hard and say, hey, we really want you. Here's the plan for you. We have this for you. We're offering you this much money. You feel that and you always want to be wanted. And so for him, I think he wanted to be an Orangeman. And also, you mentioned Syracuse is not at the top of college football right now. They've had some runs in the years past where they've been up there, cracking the AP top 25 and really pulling off some big upsets. Syracuse, though, is still an attractive destination. Yes, they're obviously known more as a basketball school, but if you're Zurbuch, you look at this as an opportunity to potentially be a reason why the football program gets turned around and can catapult themselves into one of the top teams in their respective conference and come back into the picture of college football as one of the top teams in the country. And so I think it's a win-win, especially if Syracuse wanted him. He felt that he wants to go there, and obviously he wants to play and contribute. And if he performs at the level he is doing right now at Alliance, obviously as he continues to grow both mentally and physically in the sport of football, this could be a home run hit for both sides. Zurbuch could really help the resurgence of Syracuse, and Syracuse might kind of get back to where they want to be in terms of known as a football team.
One interesting dynamic I think the Orange coaching staff has is their wide receivers coach, and Michael Johnson, who actually was the quarterback at the University of Akron, who has worked with a number of quarterbacks that kind of range in their duality from passing and running. You got guys like Drew Brees and Doug Flutie who kind of work as those undersized power throwers. He also worked with guys along the lines of Michael Vick and Alex Smith. You also have Jason Beck, who's the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, who's able to work with the likes of Taysom Hill at BYU. You have guys like Kent Burkett, who's at the Packers now, Bryce Perkins, who's at the LA Rams, Brennan Armstrong, back when he was the quarterbacks coach at Virginia. I mean, that's where it's going to be interesting to see where Zurbuch's position will be on the Orange roster, because you obviously have the experience as a quarterback. Could you make a potential move or to be a dual threat, or do you make a full transfer? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting sort of scenario. And again, this guy still has a senior season to get to here, where he's trying to build off of the Aviators' 8-3 finish from last season and trying to make an even deeper run into the postseason.
Yeah, and he'll definitely, I would assume, Mitch, obviously health is a big part and key component of that, but another year older, having a couple seasons under his belt at Alliance, and you already mentioned, even with the loss of Lewis to Maslin, he still returns 3 of his starting 5 offensive linemen. Mm-hmm. That is big for a quarterback, no matter what grade you were in high school, college, or even what year you're in as an NFL quarterback. We've seen it firsthand at all levels. I would expect them to have a phenomenal season again. Yes, the loss of one of your other offensive linemen hurts, but you still have 3 guys in that offensive line. So either your middle is going to be very strong or one side of your line is going to be very strong. And with some of the athletes Alliance has, I would expect the Aviators to be a very tough football team to beat this season. And I would expect Zurbuch to have a phenomenal senior campaign. Obviously, the one that he hopes he can end on his own terms, making it deep in the playoffs. But that is something we'll have to watch out for here in just a couple months.
It's going to be an interesting dynamic in the EBC this coming year. Now, when we come back, we're going to go over some stuff outside our domain, including where the Guardians stand on their West Coast trip and some moves in the NBA that have been made that are just going to annoy me for the rest of the offseason. Stay with us. Hey there, folks. This is Mitch Spinell, and I want to give you guys a quick message regarding 988. If you don't know what 988 is, it was created to make it easier to remember how to get help in the event of a mental health or addiction crisis. This is different than a medical, fire, or police emergency where 911 should still be called immediately. 988 connects you with Stark County's Crisis Center, which is equipped to help people in emotional distress or experiencing a mental health or addiction crisis. So remember, 911 for medical, fire, and police emergency help, and 988 for support in overcoming a mental health crisis in Stark County.
Buying a home has never been so affordable with record low interest rates. Hartzler's Quality Housing is ready to put over 40 years of experience to work for you. Family owned and operated since 1978, Hartzler's has a wide selection of model homes on site with a knowledgeable team to help make your new home a reality. Open 6 days a week, visit them off I-77 in Dover or online at hartzlers.com. Hartzler's Quality Housing. Quality from start to finish.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris.
You invest a lot in your home and vehicle purchases. Van Nostrand Young and Associates want you to feel secure should anything happen to those investments. We partnered with providers like Grange Insurance and other industry leaders to be sure you're presented with the most complete coverage to fit your needs. Because we're not only here to protect the items you invest in, we're here to protect your future as well.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497-1867.
We all have 206 things in common. Our bones keep us up and moving. And we at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital care about every single one of them. From the tip of your finger to a brand new hip, our orthopedic experts will keep you going while keeping you safe. For every break and breakthrough, for every bone and joint, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit unionhospital.org.
Wendy's without the Wendy's app is like Nugs without the sauce. Or a Frosty without the fries. Or a hamburger without the fresh beef. No! Level up. Get the app to order ahead, order delivery, earn free food, and get app-exclusive offers. One app, all the Wendy's.
Offer for a limited time at participating Wendy's. Terms apply. App registration required. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
Vive Auto Sales, located on West High Avenue in New Philadelphia and Cleveland Avenue in Canton, is a used car dealership committed to getting financing for everyone. We give every customer that walks in our showrooms a prime buying experience, no matter their credit score or financial situation. Current inventory can be viewed at www.wefinancenow.com. Check out our Facebook pages for the most up-to-date information about upcoming events and promotions happening at Vive Auto Sales.
Get out of the dugout and onto the field with help from Velocity Sports. Velocity Sports is a baseball and softball training academy with locations in North Canton and Canal Fulton. Our new Canal Fulton features 10,000 square feet of training space with 6 cages for hitting and pitching and a large commercial weight room. Velocity Sports will sharpen your skills and get you in the starting lineup. For more info, go to velosportsohio.com.
We're back on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch, it's at a point now where we're seeing it frequently this season. The Guardians are having these runs where I'm kind of confused because they had the run last week where they're starting to win against teams like Boston and Houston, and that was good. That kind of got us back in the standing of the American League Central, and it kind of boosted their confidence a little bit. Now you're going on this West Coast trip that you just taken on, and it's a weird thing that they're doing where it feels like they're waiting until the last game of each series to remember how to win baseball games, because we just saw it out in Phoenix this past week where you dropped the 2 against Arizona. You see the similar thing done in the series before that. And now, you know, it feels like a strange purgatory that we're in. And that feeling only grows with the fact that you might be losing your another one of your starting pitchers that you just got back from injury, with Tristan McKenzie now dealing with an elbow injury as opposed to a hurt shoulder earlier on in the season. You know, I hate to have to shoulder all this sort of negativity, but when you look at it, it seems like we haven't had a break this year where we have like full strength, full capacity, and full efficiency between the lineup and the starting rotation.
Because we haven't. I mean, we're just being honest here, Mitch. We have not had the full consistency. And starting with the Tristan McKenzie news, that was a brutal blow, not just for the team itself, but just as a fan that cares so much about this team. We had talked about it throughout the start of the season as this team was up and then down and up and down. And that 5th guy in the rotation wasn't necessarily always reliable. And it's like, if we just get Sticks back, it could be what we need. And he got back, Mitch, in his first start of the season. He was dominant in Minnesota. And yeah, it's going to happen. It's Major League Baseball. These are all guys who are paid to play this game. You're going to have bad starts and rocky starts, but for the most part, he started to look like the guy we had in the later stretch of last season. And now we just have to wait. We have to wait to see how long he's going to be on the injured list with an elbow injury. And that's the biggest concern there possibly is. Now, it could simply be the fact that he did so much rehab for the shoulder injury that he may have forgotten or not paid close enough attention to elbow prehab, as they call it. And maybe this is just a slight scare, but you just have to hope that's what it is, because if it's anything significant, Mitch, he's either more than likely going to be shut down or out for the season. And the Guardians cannot afford that. Not with when you've had Shane Bieber kind of have some very bizarre starts where he's not been consistent. Now, this past week, his last start against Arizona, he was great. The issue there, they left him in too long.
Yeah.
Even though his pitch count was low, he was going through the lineup a 3rd, 4th time, and Arizona got to him. But you're right. This offense seems to just want to wake up in the last game of a series. You look at the San Diego series, they lose 6-3 and 5-0. And they come out and they win 8-6, scoring 5 runs in the first inning. And it's just like, oh, where's this team been? And then they go to Arizona, they lose 5-1, then 6-3, and then they erupt yesterday in the first inning, scoring 2. And Josh Naylor has 3 RBIs. The Guardians look like a phenomenal baseball team that can hit the baseball. And they go 2-4 in a 6-game West road trip.
Yeah.
And to me, it's not what you wanted. You wanted to go 3-3. And yet again, Mitch, I'm going to say the same thing over and over. They're still somehow in this because they're only 2.5 games out after going 2-4 in the 6-game road trip, because Minnesota just cannot get this division. They're 36-36. The Guards are 5 games under 500, but they're only 2.5 spots out of a playoff spot in leading the American League Central Division. So we want to get all upset at the frustration and consistency with this team, and rightfully so. But then on the other side of it, you're just like, we don't need them to be this same exact team we had last year. Yes, that would be great because they'd probably run away with this division. Just show a little bit more consistency, and they're probably still going to get this division under their control and probably win it with how the teams in the Central played this year. But if there's any silver lining, Mitch, it's that the Guardians finally did something that I don't think a lot of us have ever seen. And that's eat $6 million in money. I had to double and triple check the news on Friday or Saturday.
Yep.
When the news came out that the Guardians designated Mike Zunino for assignment. The catcher they signed in the offseason for $6 million to a 1-year deal. And for Cleveland, if you're a fan out there of this baseball team, you know that's a lot of money. And they DFA'd him. And they called up Bo Naylor. And that's what we've been here campaigning for, Mitch. You and I both. I think everybody that is a fan of this team in Cleveland has been petitioning for Bo Naylor. Well, he's here now, and we got to hope that he can be just average in order to be better than Mike Zunino.
I mean, you know, striking out against a position player isn't exactly what I would call average. But no, I'm messing with that. But in all honesty, it's like, yeah, it really was just this unfortunate situation that Zanino was in where nothing was producing on either side. You mentioned the game he had a few weeks ago, which is you called it one of the worst fielding performances you've ever seen from a Guardians catcher. And the guy's just having some trouble putting solid contact on the ball. Didn't have the power that he had provided to Tampa Bay a few seasons ago. So, we have that movement. We talked about the Zach Plesac thing about a week or so ago. I mean, there's just a lot of movement going on in the system, as if there hasn't been already. You got to fly by the seat of it, and you got to win 2 games here minimum against Oakland, which we kind of talked about last week, and that was just my whole rant about the stadium. But that's not here nor there, because Oakland's still the worst team in Major League Baseball, I think, by a mile compared to everyone else. If you drop 2 games to them in your own park, that's concerning. I could see it if it was like away, I'd be like, all right, it was a road thing. But no, if this turns into the same stuff where you're waiting until the last game of the week to end, or the series to remember how to hit, I think that's just going to set the tone for the rest of the season. Like, oh yeah, we're going to win 2 games. We're going to lose 2 games. We'll win the last one, or we're going to win 2 games, drop the last one. It's just going to be this sort of in the middle team that look, you get the benefit of having the Twins kind of reeling right now. They've won 5 and lost 8 in their last 13 games. But yeah, this isn't a team to take seriously if that's the case.
100%. And you know what? I think that we're at this part of the season now, Mitch, where within the next 2-3 weeks, we're going to be able to have a serious conversation about what this team is. Mm-hmm. Not only do they play Oakland, they play Milwaukee. Yes, Milwaukee is, atop the National League Central Division, but at the same time, no matter how they've played this year, I still think we are the better baseball team. But after Milwaukee, you go to Kansas City, not a good baseball team, and you go to the Cubs. You have 12 games coming up that are all very winnable. Now, the catch to that is who is going to take over Tristan McKenzie's start, because obviously when you're looking ahead, like I have pulled up here, you see the probable pitchers expected to start on their scheduled days, every 5 days. And Wednesday, June 21st, there's still a name to be put in there. Tuesday, June 27th, still a name. Where does this team go? Do they look back to Zach Plesac? Do they look at, Gaddis? Mitch, are we going to see our 3rd rookie pitcher called up in Gavin Williams? I mean, he certainly looks like he's deserving of it with how he's pitched in AAA since he's gotten called up. And we know the hype has been around him. Now that's a big task to ask, but regardless, they have 4 winnable series, in my opinion. And if they can win 3 of the 4 series, this team's going to be in a really good spot. They are. Oakland's bad. Kansas City's bad. Those are the 2 worst teams really in Major League Baseball right now. I don't think there's any argument over it. And then you get to play Milwaukee at home, and the Cubs, they got some players. They've been hot. They've been cold. We'll see. But really, Mitch, up until July 2nd, we're going to learn a lot about this Cleveland Guardians team over the next 12 games. I'm excited because we're not even at the halfway point yet. But if this team starts dropping series against some bad baseball teams, we're going to be talking about, into July, who's going to get traded from our team instead of us talking about who are we going to go get at the deadline.
We certainly might. Also, people start voting Josh Naylor for the first baseman at the All-Star game. Like, and here's the thing. I don't think Josh Naylor is the best first baseman to start in this game, but I don't think he's 9th, 10th?
Yeah, 10th.
Is that what is in the standings right now? I'd have to look it up. But yeah, that's just like the guy is hitting better in contact than he has been in the past. He's definitely driving in the runs when necessary. The man's proven he can play past the 8th inning. I think this is a guy that, along with Jose Ramirez, should get some serious consideration for the Midsummer Classic this year.
Mitch, he's 6th in all of baseball, not the American League. He's 6th in baseball in RBIs, and he's only 5 off the leader, which just happens to be a unicorn in Shohei Ohtani. I mean, he's the top. He has the most RBIs of any first baseman in the American League. And that, to me, when you're looking at positions that you need to produce, Mitch, you're generally looking at the corners, 1st, 3rd, right, and left. Because what have we always said the past couple of years? We have to find a corner outfielder that can hit for this team. We needed a corner first baseman. That's why they went and got Josh Bell. Well, maybe Josh Bell was a wake-up call for Josh Naylor. I mean, Mitch, he has 53 RBIs. He's been very consistent this year. He's hitting .288. I mean, this is a completely different Josh Naylor from last year. And yes, I think the injury he suffered in 2021 played a factor into who he could really be last year. But after a full off season, The Josh Naylor we have right now, Mitch, is a guy that I would want to keep for a number of years down the line as a Cleveland Guardian, but he is way more deserving of a 9th or 10th place spot in the All-Star voting for first baseman in the American League. I'm with you. I'm not saying he needs to be first or second, but come on, people, vote. It only takes you 3 minutes?
Yeah. Again, maybe he'll get in as an alternate if we have a year what was it, 2000? What year was the Arizona All-Star game? The year Robinson Cano won the home run derby. 2011, 2010,
somewhere around
one of those
there.
years. That was 2011 because 2010 was Anaheim. 2011, there was a year where every player felt like was ineligible because they pitched on Sunday or got injured. So therefore, you had a lot of guys who typically wouldn't make the All-Star game in that situation getting in. I remember David Robertson getting in for the Yankees, and I was like, But I don't know. Maybe Naylor can get an opportunity if that's so much the case. And I don't even know if Bieber is going to make it into the All-Star game this year just because he's had these unfortunate struggles, but time will tell. In the meantime, we'll take a break. We'll come back right after this because we got some basketball talk and some college baseball talk.
The Furby Electric Supply Company has bright ideas for your home. Save money by converting to energy-efficient electrical products or add ambiance with beautiful lighting features. It begins with a professional consultation and a visit to the Furby Lighting Showroom. Then certified Furby contractors complete your project right and on time. Since 1934, 4 generations have built a reputation of quality and trust, and they offer emergency services too. Just visit Furby.com. That's F-U-R-B-A-Y. The Furby Electric Supply Company.
You asked for it and we listened. Buckeye Career Center is now offering Certified Nail Technician as an adult education program. This 216-hour course begins in November and will run Tuesday through Thursday evenings from 5 to 9 p.m. Learn manicures, pedicures, infection control, salon operations, and more. Other part-time certification courses starting this fall include phlebotomy and welding. Call 330-339-2288 to register or visit BuckeyeCareerCenter.org for more information.
If you're looking for a new or pre-owned car or truck, why not see the Parkway Auto Group? Parkway is a special group of automotive experts with 8 brands to satisfy your needs. Come see the difference at the Parkway Auto Group on Commercial Parkway in Dover. 8 brands and 1 family. It's Parkway Auto Group.
Fall is in the air and part-time career enhancement courses at Buckeye Career Center are on the horizon. Registration is now open for Introduction to Beekeeping, Basic Small Engine Repair, and Sign Language. These part-time offerings run on Tuesday evenings and begin in November. Let Buckeye Career Center help you learn a new skill or advance your current skill set. Call 330-339-2288 for more information or to reserve your seat in one of these or our other part-time classes.
You matter. Everyone plays a part. We all have a role. Each of us can make a difference. You do matter, and the best way to have a positive impact is to pay it forward. With each of us helping one another to cope, feel better, and know that we belong. Pass on the positivity today. Tell someone else they matter too. Alt Care.
Alt Care, Alt Care. Where you matter.
We all have 206 things in common. Our bones keep us up and moving. And we at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital care about every single one of them. From the tip of your finger to a brand new hip, our orthopedic experts will keep you going while keeping you safe. For every break and breakthrough, for every bone and joint, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit unionhospital.org.
Employee benefits, although time-consuming and expensive, is one of the top considerations for those making a job change. At Hummel Group, we help businesses craft benefit strategies that align with company goals. Through an emphasis on cost containment, leveraging technology, and benefits administration, we save your team valuable time. Your employees call us with questions, not you. Visit HummelHelps.com or call 800-860-1060. Don't just get insurance. Get Hummel.
June is National Safety Month. Did you know that 80% of injuries related to falling in a home happen in the bathroom, mostly to folks over the age of 65? If you find it hard to get in and out of a standard bathtub and need a new walk-in shower or convenient walk-in bathtub, then call the professionals at JR Bath. JR Bath has been helping to make bathrooms beautiful and safer since 1976. Call JR Bath at 330-494-2365 or visit us at jrbath.com.
Back here on the Big Time Sports Podcast show. So, Mitch, we get into this thing now where we got the news yesterday that a big trade was made in the NBA, one that is just going to annoy me for the rest of the offseason. You know, the Phoenix Suns had a bit of a disappointing run in the Western Conference playoffs this year, ousted in the second round for the second consecutive season. And now they're trying to make what seems to be a final push for serious contention in the NBA Finals, as they already have Kevin Durant, they already have Devin Booker, and they are now going to add Bradley Beal via a trade with the just down on their luck Washington Wizards, a deal that would send Chris Paul to Washington, although it seems that a buyout is expected for the perennial All-Star. And now, Mitch, this is a big three that to me is probably going to average about 130 points a game and give up 140 in the same night.
Yeah, I think it's safe to expect, Mitch, because this team already had an issue on defense, and a lot of that was also their depth because they gave away so much for Kevin Durant. This team is going to be a lot of fun to watch offensively, potentially. We'll have to wait and see, Mitch, because who's going to be the point guard now? Is it going to be Devin Booker? Is he going to have to take a step back in being a scoring threat, or is Kevin Durant going to move to the 4 and Bradley Beal will play the 3? We'll have to wait and see. This is just, I get it, right? This is a very flashy move. Suns fans are probably in love with this because not only do you add Kevin Durant last year, you now have Bradley Beal. You have 3 of the top 20 active players in points per game. That's big time. But none of these 3 guys have ever really been considered great defenders. You also have DeAndre Ayton, Mitch, who signed a big contract, and we know Phoenix isn't happy with him. Washington did this deal to get Beal's contracts off the book. It is one of, if not the current worst contract in the NBA right now. And now the Suns have over $163 million tied up between 4 players.
Yep.
Why that's big is because of the new collective bargaining agreement going in. They're almost going to be over the luxury tax already between those 4 players. Mitch, Beal, right now, when healthy, is better than Chris Paul.
Yes.
Who the hell are the Suns going to get to play with that team, though, with the amount of money they're going to have left? It's
exactly
mind-boggling. You already saw it this year. They had no depth. And this is a team before they traded with Kevin Durant that made it to the NBA Finals and was up 2-0. And they traded away all their depth, and you saw it come back to bite them. Durant has had injury issues. Booker's had issues. Beal has had issues. Yes, Chris Paul's had issues, but the other 3, Mitch, to me, being younger than Chris Paul, have had bigger injury concerns.
Right.
So now, not only if they are still hurt, or obviously not wishing this, but if they do continue to get hurt, they're not going to have the caliber of players some of these other teams have to come in and fill that void. You're asking some guys who aren't normally comfortable coming in trying to average 20 points per game to come in and average 20 points per game, or you're going to ask 2 of the 3, if one of them goes down, to be insane scorers. Now, listen, all 3 are obviously able to score at a high level. We know that. But that's still asking a lot, especially when you don't have the right players as it sits right now to surround them. We've seen it before with LeBron and other players of you have to get shooters, right? The Milwaukee Bucks, their biggest goal this offseason is to get shooters around Giannis. These guys, Mitch, that they have on the team still aren't necessarily the best shooters. And it's a flashy move for the Suns, who have a new coach coming in. Obviously now going to be their first full year under brand new ownership with Mark Ishba. And obviously he wanted this move to be made, but for the Wizards, yes, you trade your franchise player, but it's a franchise player who's not been available for about half the season for the past number of years. You had to get the contract off the books. We'll see if a third team gets involved here. It says right here in an article, Mitch, that the trade will not be finalized for a few days as they are trying to find a contender as a third team to get Chris Paul. And if they don't, the Wizards are more than likely going to buy out Chris Paul.
Yeah.
It's a frustrating move, but at the same time, I'm not worried about it because this team is not going to be deep. And to your point, they're going to score, but can they stop the other team from scoring?
Well, you mentioned that the issue with the salary cap and the luxury tax. If you add Cameron Payne's contract as well, that puts the number at 170, which is well beyond the cap and tax limit. Ayton, I could see them trading maybe at the draft, maybe around the draft time. I could see them maybe trying to cast them up, but that's going to be really difficult for some teams who might have seen last season. We saw with Indiana last season that they were going to give him a contract, and then Phoenix matched that as well. But you just saw him get bullied and kind of give up against Jokic this season in the playoffs. Like, is this going to be your number one big man for moving forward? The Suns obviously are not going to have much depth as of right now with those 5 guys just eating up the cap. So it's not a long-term thing. It's them being like, hey, let's make this last push. We got a coach in Frank Vogel who's won a title before in the bubble with the Lakers. Let's try to make this our time, because it hasn't been so over the last couple of seasons, kind of disappointingly. And then the Wizards, it's just going to be complete nonsense here in the next couple of years. You're not even going to get Chris Paul in a jersey this year. It's going to be like the Carmelo Anthony to the Hawks thing. He might even make a return to the Clippers from certain reports that I've been seeing, but that's an interesting sort of dynamic there. There's nothing in Washington. Nothing. It's unfortunate.
They're still awaiting player option decisions from Kyle Kuzma and Kristaps Porzingis. And after that, Mitch, they really have no big names that a casual NBA fan is going to know. And they need to start over, although looks like they've been trying to start over now as they've had 5 consecutive losing seasons. But a big way to start over is to be able to clear that cap. And Beal, who has, I believe, $200+ million remaining on his 3-year contract still, getting that off the books is going to be a huge way for them to be able to rebuild the right way instead of trying to find the right players to surround him with.
That contract you mentioned too, one of the least team-friendly deals in the NBA right now, which it was already bad for Washington, and it's going to be even more of a headache for Phoenix if they're not able to make these moves around to make it not just 5 guys and everybody else on their roster. So when we come back, I want to talk about some college baseball here because we got a couple of good games here tonight. Stay with us. Hey there, folks. This is Mitch Spinell, and I want to give you guys a quick message regarding 988. If you don't know what 988 is, it was created to make it easier to remember how to get help in the event of a mental health or addiction crisis. This is different than a medical, fire, or police emergency where 911 should still be called immediately. 988 connects you with Stark County's Crisis Center, which is equipped to help people in emotional distress or experiencing a mental health or addiction crisis. So remember, 911 for medical, fire, and police emergency help, and 988 for support in overcoming a mental health crisis in Stark County.
Are you trying to increase your speed, quickness, vertical leap, and agility? If so, NST Sports Performance is for you. NST trains athletes ages 5 through pro. NST designs each program specific to the athlete's needs, goals, and sports. For more, visit nstsports.com. Locations in North Canton and New Philadelphia. It's nstsports.com.
It takes a lot of practice to have a winning team. Albin Title has over 100 years of combined experience handling real estate, title, and escrow transactions. They serve Tuscarawas, Stark, Carroll, Harrison counties, and more. So choose Albin Title for your next home refinance, sale, or purchase. They'll get it done quickly and professionally. Contact Albin Title at 330-334-5800 or visit their website albintitle.com. Let them put their experience to work for you.
Hard work is something you're accustomed to. Van Nostrand Young understands that principle. Our access is achieved with organizations like Grange Insurance. Safety and prevention specialists utilize our VanCan assessments process to ensure that you and your colleagues are in the best hands. You want the safest environment for your business, and we can guide you there.
Call Van Nostra and Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497-1867.
If you're purchasing a new home, the team at Hartzler's Quality Housing is here to help. Take advantage of record low interest rates to make your new home a reality. Locally owned and operated since 1978, Hartzler's Quality Housing has the experience to guide you through the process. You'll find a wide selection of model homes on site to fit any budget. Open 6 days a week just off I-77. You can also visit them online at hartzlers.com. Hartzler's Quality Housing. Quality from start to finish.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris.
Wendy's without the Wendy's app is like Nugs without the sauce. Or a Frosty without the fries. Or a hamburger without the fresh beef. No! Level up. Get the app to order ahead, order delivery, earn free food, and get app-exclusive offers. One app, all the Wendy's.
Offer for a limited time at participating Wendy's. Terms apply. App registration required. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
Get out of the dugout and onto the field with help from Velocity Sports. Velocity Sports is a baseball and softball training academy with locations in North Canton and Canal Fulton. Our new Canal Fulton features 10,000 square feet of training space with 6 cages for hitting and pitching and a large commercial weight room. Velocity Sports will sharpen your skills and get you in the starting lineup. For more info, go to velosportsohio.com.
Turning 65 soon or already on Medicare? Hummel Group can help you explore your options and find a plan that fits your unique healthcare needs and budget. Our experienced agents provide personalized advice and help you compare plans from top insurance carriers for free. We're here to help you find the Medicare plan that's right for you. Visit HummelHelps.com or call 800-860-1060 to speak to an agent about Medicare. Don't just get insurance, get Hummel.
Back here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show, our final segment here, we go over something that I've been trying to keep with in the last couple of weeks, the Men's College World Series in baseball in Omaha, where this past weekend, Mitch, we saw a number of really close games. I believe 5 of them all decided by 1 run, which is interesting, and a number of teams with some very, very intriguing matchups, not only from this past weekend, but tonight, which we'll get to in a second. I mean, I want you to take me through some of what's been going on, especially this one game between Florida and Oral Roberts last night that seemed to be on everybody's radar.
Mitch, the College World Series is one of the best events of the year that I still don't think gets enough coverage or recognition that it deserves. And these are either the best teams in college baseball or the hottest teams in college baseball. And obviously, there's a matchup tonight that we'll get to in LSU Wake Forest. And you're talking about 2, if not the best 2 teams in college baseball. Last night, though, you had Florida and Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts, one of the hottest teams in college baseball. Also, one of the most dramatic teams in college baseball, as they have the most come-from-behind wins this year after trailing after the 7th inning. Meanwhile, you have a team in this tournament, or that was in this tournament, like Virginia, who was the most dominant team after leading 7 innings, had not lost until this tournament when taking a lead into the 8th inning, and they're out. But last night, Oral Roberts in Florida was dramatic. It was all Florida for most of the night. Oral Roberts comes back like they've done all season long. And then Florida kind of had a meltdown, but survived. And it wasn't a player meltdown. It was a coaching meltdown. Malpractice by a coach. In baseball, you obviously know you only get a certain number of visits. And now that includes catcher visits. The Florida head coach last night, Mitch, must not have marked down in his book how many times his catcher went out to the mound. He went out to the mound in a critical point of the game with his All-American closer out in the game in the 8th inning, and what at the time I believe was a 2-run lead for Florida, and had no visits remaining. And for anybody out there wondering, if you have no visits remaining, it means you have to make a pitching move. Now, why this was so dramatic, Florida had no interest in taking out their All-American closer. There was nobody in the bullpen warming up. Coach went out and was told he had to remove the pitcher. And he was in shock. He did not know what was going on. The players were confused. And he simply had missed a visit the catcher took for Florida to the mound and had to remove their dominant closer, who was in a bit of a pickle. And then after that, Mitch, you could just see every time that camera panned over into the Florida dugout, he looked like he was just lost, because he knew that that's probably something he should have known. But also, you had to put somebody in the game that was not warmed whatsoever. They try to get him in the bullpen, but the rule states that they have to warm up on the mound. When you come into the mound, when it's not an injury, you only have a certain number of pitches to throw before you're told the game has to go live. It's like that in high school. But Florida survived. Florida survived last night, and now they're advancing into the winner's bracket. Oral Roberts now, after they come back to beat TCU in their first game in Omaha, now goes to the loser's bracket, where I believe they will take on TCU again. TCU, who defeated Virginia yesterday afternoon in the elimination game. That'll be a great game. TCU, also a team that a lot of people did not think would be here. One of the hotter teams in college baseball. It's just high-level baseball at its finest. These players show so much emotion. Last night, both teams got warnings after one was hit by pitch. Florida got warned late in the game after he stared back down the pitcher and said something to a catcher running down the line. It's high-level baseball, and you see some guys, Mitch, that will be in the big leagues here soon, specifically someone like Paul Skeens, the absolute stud, number one starting pitcher for LSU, Mitch, that I don't know if I've ever seen it before. Definitely haven't really heard about it in terms of serious talk. You've heard jokes about it. Mitch, there's a lot of people who think Skeens could be and should be the number one overall pick in the MLB draft here in, I believe, just next week. And there's serious consideration with how his stuff plays. And for people out there unaware, this is a player that I believe had 40 pitches over 100 miles per hour in the game. A starting pitcher that was over 115 pitches in that game before he was pulled. And there's some people out there that are like, the Pirates have the number one pick. The Pirates really aren't playing bad this year. Is this a team that could take him and put him right in? There's some things to worry about there. Obviously, college baseball plays, weekend series, so he has maybe some more time off. Could they put him in the bullpen? It's a legitimate conversation teams and scouts and media are having right now about, could somebody be taken number one overall and just skip the minors and be thrown into the bullpen for a Major League Baseball team, which I don't think we've ever seen. But his stuff definitely plays. But now the thing for LSU, after just escaping that game the other night over Florida, is can they beat Wake Forest, who, Mitch, has been the best baseball team all season long in college baseball, 52 wins in the regular or throughout this season. That is insane.
I don't believe we've seen a draft pick or number one pick go right to the majors. I know the most notable player that went right to the majors is Al Kaline, and that was he signed as an 18-year-old out of high school with the Detroit Tigers. But yeah, that could be a very interesting scenario if Pittsburgh decides to maybe bring him up as soon as possible. I don't expect that. I think a lot of teams are trying to be very reserved nowadays and trying to make sure that their prospects have enough seasoning before they're put into the fire. But yeah, I'm interested in seeing what happens tonight. There's a great matchup you mentioned between LSU and number one Wake Forest. The Demon Deacons against this LSU team that's kind of had this sort of party mentality throughout the last couple of days here in Omaha, which is very interesting. And then you mentioned TCU versus Oral Roberts. We'll just see what happens throughout here before we get to the championship round here within the next 4 or 5 days. So it's gonna be a very interesting time here for the rest of it. So we want to thank you guys for listening or watching to the Big Time Sports Podcast show today. Real quickly, before we get to the fact of the day, I want to shout out two people. Number one is Wyndham Clark, who won the U.S. Open this week over the LA Country Club. Just a very solid performance in the back nine to stave off Rory McIlroy, stave off the rest of the performers who were kind of falling off at the end. He was just able to overcome a couple of mistakes to capture his first major at 29 years old. Also want to give a shout out to Maxwell Moldovan, who is a Green high school alum, golfer for Ohio State, who ended up making the cut at the U.S. Open this week with a pair of 71s at 2 over par. Performed the likes of Phil Mickelson and Jordan Spieth. If it ended up finishing 65th overall. I mean, Mitch, the U.S. Open is no joke, and even for those who don't know golf as well, that's one of the hardest majors to play, to the point where, like, again, you go into an average U.S. Open rough, it feels like crabgrass, not actually, but it's the length of it. I mean, the sand bunkers are insane. The greens feel like you're putting on tabletops. It's not an easy place to play, and yet this guy was able to hold his own against some of the top golfers in the world.
Yeah, what a tremendous accomplishment, Mitch. You hear the top golfers in the world talk about how hard the Open is. I mean, and you see it. Some of these golfers that are just always at the top of the leaderboards in every single outing or event they're in struggle mightily. And there's really no way to prepare for it other than their practice rounds before the U.S. Open that week. And you saw some of the top players in the world really struggle this week. And so you're right. Congratulations really isn't enough to talk about what he was able to do this week out there in California. But man, oh man, that is something to build on and build forward for somebody who I know has high hopes and aspirations to get to a high level of golf and be a consistent player atop the world leaderboard here in the near future.
And I will shout out the low amateur of the week, Gordon Sargent, who ended up 1 under for the weekend. So Mitch, what is our fact of the day before we head out of here?
It snows in the Sahara Desert.
Yeah, especially at nighttime, I would say. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's very fascinating. All right, we'll see you guys next week here. Thank you for listening or watching to the Big Time Sports Podcast Show.